Michael. Come
Hey,
in.
how are
How
you?
are you today?
Good, and yourself?
Can I get you a tea or coffee or anything?
I wouldn't mind one actually.
Perfect. Take a seat.
Will do.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Michael here again. This time with a video which is very close to my heart. I'm out here in Pieta House, joined by Angela Horgan and David Young. And basically what we want to try and do in this video is talk a little bit about Pieta House. Such a great service here in Cork. Yeah. So I suppose I'll just go to Angela first. Angela, can you tell me a little bit about Pieta House and like your role within the service?
Yeah, so I'm Angela Horgan and I'm the Funding and Advocacy Coordinator. So I'm not a clinical person in Pieta, but we do have a lot of therapists here. As you know, there's 36 therapists here. And we started just over 4 years ago. No, 5 years ago. No, 4 years ago.
By the way, let's leave it in.
Anyway, so we started, over 4 years ago.
Right.
And we started with 2 therapists, and now we have 36, as I said. And as soon as we opened the door in Cork, it was just, the demand was unreal.
Yeah.
So actually today even, we will see up to 84 people.
Oh, really?
So like you were saying at the start.
Don't worry, after this video goes live, you'll see 160. No, I hope not.
Well, if people need to come in, then they need to come in. So we're really happy about that. It is quite a high number, but just like to get that out there, that there are that amount of people that are coming in every single day to get support. So it's not something so unusual.
Small population, it's everyone.
Absolutely, and people are normally shocked by those numbers, thinking, "Oh my God, just in Cork alone."
Yeah.
So really, I suppose, as I said, the service has just grown and grown and grown, and we're really happy because we understand that these issues are here and they're here to stay. Suicide has always been.
Right.
It's always been there throughout history, so it's not really that different now, only that people are talking about it more, and that's really the key. And what we'd like to get out is that, you know, Pieta is here if you are struggling, and maybe you're not sure if you're suicidal or not.
Yeah, because even for, like, I'll admit, I was through the service myself, and sometimes the person who's in the throes of that situation, they need to be told by somebody else, like, maybe you should consider Pieta House. Like, maybe this is a family member that you're thinking about when you watch this video, but you only think about mental health services really when you're at a crisis point. So like, I guess
no one really looks for help when they're okay.
No, the difficulty is when you're at crisis, it can be so hard to make a lunch, never mind try and get through a quagmire of processes and forms and phone calls and appointments, and that's really, really hard at the best of times, no matter what, when you're in that space. So that's why the Pieta service is quite different to other services. So the referral is really, really simple. You pick up the phone.
Okay.
You call the Cork Centre.
Doesn't need a doctor?
You do not need a doctor's referral, a psychiatric report. You don't have to made a previous attempt or gone to A&E. Nothing. You don't even have to make the call yourself. Somebody can make the call for you. So if it was you that was in bother, Michael, you could ring up and say, my friend wants to come into the service, can I make an appointment for him? Okay. And we would say yes. What's his name? What's his date of birth? That's all that's asked. Now, it's a difficult call to make because obviously you're going to be anxious if your friend is suicidal or self-harming. But really, that's all the details we need, and we would just say, just get them in. So they come in and have an assessment.
Yeah.
This is actually the assessment room.
I remember it well.
So it's really important for us to be able to get this out there. This is a non-clinical environment, and I think that's one of the reasons it works so well. So when the client comes in, as you know, you sit on this lovely comfortable couch,
and I'm offered a nice pot of tea.
And you have to get the tea. That's really important.
That was actually a really important thing for me, right? Not because I'm a massive caffeine addict, which I am, but because I suppose it just sets the tone for your experience here in Pieta House. It's like somebody else is coming to you and they're very much saying, I'm at your service and can I do anything I can to comfort you? It's, as you say, it's not a clinical environment. The place is, the ambience is set quite nicely. There's candles lit around the house.
Home.
It's really like a home.
Yeah, as I said to you earlier, it takes 20 minutes every morning to light the tea lights.
Yeah.
And that is just a small thing that we can do. But the tea, when I was talking to you previous to this, you mentioned about the tea, about being a client here and how that affected you. It's such a small thing. But if I went to your house, surely you'd have to make up tea. Maybe coffee. But it's just that little bit of care, and that's also why we ask our clients to come to the door and ring the doorbell. So we don't keep the door locked to keep people out or keep people in. It's so that we can answer the door and greet them by name. Again, it's a small thing, but it's really, really important.
I think it's important as well to touch on the fact that when you come here, you don't have to stay here. it's not this place. It's not like a prison. But I think a lot of people don't really know that.
Yeah.
And they think, okay, I might say this, and they might have to keep me in, and like maybe they'll worry about am I a risk to myself and all this. So I think it's really important to say like it's completely at your own accord. You don't have to stay. You don't have to come. You know, you just have to come in and get talking.
That's it. That's as simple and as difficult as it is.
Yeah.
Really, it is so hard to talk and to come in and to not be sure what you're coming into or what's going to happen. So the more information that we can get out about that, you know, is really important. So in a while, I think we'll go into the waiting room and, you know, we'll just show the viewers what it's like. Again, it's very much like a sitting room. And that's where you have the lovely tea.
Yeah. And I remember I was greeted by Chris, I think it was, carried out my evaluation. So this really energetic, hi, how's it going? Shook my hand with a firm grip. Like, I mean, sorry Chris if you're watching. But, but it just set the tone again. I mean, it wasn't like doctor with a chart like, here's another one, you know, because I've been through other services, right, where I'm not going to name them, but basically where you feel like you're being treated like a misbehaving child or like another number.
Or like you're a criminal.
Like you're a criminal nearly, yeah.
Exactly.
Pieta's not like that at all. Like, I mean, so the next step after that evaluation, so somebody tries to find out a little bit about you, they match you with a counsellor, am I right? And over the next couple of weeks, they have either weekly or twice a week, is it?
So we really try initially, at least, to get people in twice a week. And sometimes it's more. Again, it's a client-led service. So after the assessment, like you said, we match you up with the therapist that we best think suits your needs. And if you don't feel that that's the right person for you, we'll match up with a different therapist. But obviously, one of the good things about having so many therapists in-house is that they're all trained in different disciplines and they all work differently with different people who have different issues. So really to have that connection, and that's what it is about, is about connecting with somebody.
I know you're really connected with my counsellor. John, if you're watching, 12 out of 10, boy, that's what I'd rate you. But no, it really is about that connection, and as you say, like somebody can switch at any time if they're not comfortable. They can, and I think that's very important for people, is like before they come into a service to not feel intimidated by the process or like feeling like they're not in control. Because I very much felt during my time at Pieta, it was a very empowering experience. It was like I was the one in the driver's seat and Pieta were here to support me.
Well, it's your life.
Yeah.
You know, you are in control of it, and there's no point in us telling you or a therapist saying to you, this, you need to do this, you need to do that. You know, you need to figure it out straight away. And we just
have the support there.
Exactly. It's the listening and that connection with somebody.
Which is lacking a lot of the time in different services.
It is, but people are really surprised, I suppose, and would ask, you know, what is it that we do? And we just talk. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's talking. It's one human to another human talking about where they're at the minute. And just
it's a very simple thing, really.
And I suppose extending beyond Pieta House, right? So your stint in Pieta would typically last about maybe 6 weeks, am I correct? Or so?
So it's up to about 15 sessions, but again, it's down to the client. Sometimes people need more, sometimes people need less. So it's dependent on that. But to have 2 sessions a week, at least initially, is to build up that connection so that you are coming in. But again, we understand that people have lives to lead. They have to go to school, they have to mind children, they have to go to work.
So you can work around the person.
You need to work around the person. So that's why we're open until 8 in the evening and things like that. So we can fit in around.
You can fit in pretty much anything. So.
Yeah, because the world does not stop. Just because you're going through something really difficult. You have probably people relying on you and you have things you need to do.
And I suppose it's important to just even acknowledge that. And I suppose to be able to give the support to people to be able to continue their life and to improve in the background.
Yeah, that's very true. And I mean, going beyond like the actual, we'd say the crisis mode. So like, I mean, Dave, you've been through counselling yourself, and you're quite an advocate for counselling.
Yeah, because I think it's important that people start talking. Like especially in young people, the younger generation, it's seen as a stigma. You're not allowed to have it seems like from a lot of people I talk to and the audience I have is that not a lot of people are comfortable talking if they're not okay, and I think that needs to change. You look at the suicide rates, you look at how many people there are out there that get on to and say, oh, I really resonate with the message you're saying, that you didn't feel okay and you went to counselling and you spoke about it. but you just see that so many people aren't okay with talking.
Yeah.
And it needs to change.
It needs to change.
It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Because I think a lot of young men think it's going to be like this emasculating experience where they're no longer seen as like a big macho man. Whereas here we've got like,
proud, really, like, you know.
I mean, look at the size of the arms on this fella, and yeah, he's
So
talking,
embarrassing.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, that's so true. But as well as that, to say that, you know, we have male therapists here. So if a man wants to come in and speak to a man, then that's absolutely fine. You know, if that's what works, we're happy to do that.
Yeah.
You say you have John and you met Chris, so that's 2 men.
Yeah.
And I've got my own counsellor called Phil, and I resonate really well with him.
Yeah.
Dr. Phil.
No, just
Yeah.
just Phil. If you're watching Phil, it's just Phil. But I've thought many a time to call him Dr. Phil, but when I actually get in there and we're talking about other things, it just
There's probably copyright issues there.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Anyway, the price go up, so I wouldn't do that. And just on the price, actually, just to remind people that this is a completely free of charge service. So whether you're coming in as a client or you're accessing the family support that we have available. So while you were in the service, your family member or loved one or a friend could come in and have a counselling session once a week with a therapist, and that's free of charge as well. We also have a bereavement service for anybody that's been affected by suicide, whether it's 6 months ago or 60 years ago. But even we have had clients that have a huge, definitely. But that service is completely free of charge. That's for anybody out there that's listening and is struggling with something, because a grief by or a suicidal grief, if somebody died by suicide, the grief that comes with that is really complicated.
That was actually
it's very difficult.
It was the only thing that kept me in this world, and I admitted that to my mother actually only last night. Was like thinking about the grief, the knock-on effect it would have on my family.
It has a massive effect. There's actually research to show that for every one death by suicide, 71 people are directly affected. Clients come in here, getting the help that they need when they need it, and going on to live their normal life and their best life, and to be able to deal with the things that come along. As we said earlier, life is really hard. Life is difficult for a lot of people, even for people that seem to have it all. It's really hard, and to be able to not only come in and get the support that you need when you're in a crisis, but to get those tools, to have the tools, like you say, you have been to your own counsellor and you are equipped with tools. Then, so if something happens, you know how you can
cope with it.
And you also know that maybe there's things you can't cope with, and then you need to go back and get more.
And you have a bit of support, and then you work through it.
And so it's supposed to be able to provide that kind of really great free service to people. Like, I mean, how are you able to do that? How are you funded? If that's not too intrusive, then how are you funded? I want to see your books.
It's actually really important. All of our accounts are on our website. We are completely transparent. This is not our service, it's actually the public service. It's publicly funded by the coffee mornings, the skydives, the man who went to Kilimanjaro with a washing machine on his back.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And a teacher from Waterford, he climbed Kilimanjaro with a washing machine on his back.
God.
We have, there's things going on all the time. Whether you put €1 into a bucket or you support a different way, if you get on board with Darkness into Light and you sign up to do that, those funds are what keeps us going. But we get between 10 and 15% government funding, and all of the rest is fundraised by the public. So that is
huge,
just huge.
And fantastic, really.
Yeah, but it goes a lot to say as well that so many people in Ireland do have compassion and understanding, of the need of this service.
And if you do have someone that, if you're not feeling the best or whatever, just even saying it to someone that's close to you is such a big thing to be able to do, because it breaks down that barrier between, it's this big stigma, or there must be something majorly wrong with me if I'm not feeling okay. So I think it's really important as well to just break down that barrier and accept that everyone has issues.
Yeah.
That's life.
Yeah.
That is life.
And what we're treating here is not necessarily a mental illness, it's a collection of life issues that have gotten on top of you. And it brought you to this breaking point. And I think it's fair to say as well that sometimes people may think, because I would have thought this as well, even when I was at breaking point, I don't deserve the service. I'm taking up the time for somebody else who needs it more, whereas if you're even thinking about it, you should probably be going through the service.
Well, we hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And I can understand where people are coming from, because I probably feel like that myself. I'm not so bad, so I'm going to be taking someone else's place or whatever. That's not the case. And what I would say to someone is, if you're concerned about yourself or you're concerned about somebody else, come in and have an assessment. I'm not a therapist, you're not a therapist,
Definitely
we're not qualified to make this call. So come in, sit on this lovely couch, have a cup of tea, and if your therapist says, you know, there's no risk at all, you're not suicidal, but you maybe need some extra support in this area, or we can refer you on to other supports.
Yeah.
You wasted no one's time.
Yeah.
And if you do need the service, then you're in the right place.
Okay.
So really, just
It's a
let the
win-win,
professionals
really.
make the decision.
Yeah.
It is a win-win. You are not wasting anybody's time. We are very happy to see anybody.
Yeah.
And we do aim to see people within 72 hours. Again, that's a really important thing. It can be very difficult to get through a day or a night when you are in a very, I suppose, in a crisis state.
Yeah.
So to be able to get in here
Yeah.
in 72 hours, and generally it's 24.
And I suppose as well, even just having that appointment, it gives you something to kind of work through, say, right, okay, I'll just get through this night,
Yeah.
I'll get through tomorrow night, and then I know I'll be in front of someone that really cares.
That's a really protective factor, actually.
You know.
The other thing is sometimes we might have a waiting list, so there could be a little bit longer between when you start your sessions after assessment. But what we do is we would, the reception staff and the admin staff here would ring the client and say, look, we're just working on getting your therapist, we will be back to you. You can come in and have a holdover session, so you could meet somebody and have a session with them in the meantime while we are matching you up. But that care is there, that you're not forgotten about, you're not left waiting weeks on end, that somebody will check in with you and they'll say, I will call you back in 2 days or whatever it is, and that that we are actively trying to work.
Care about.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I suppose I found when I was in crisis mode. I was extremely sick at the time that I was in Pieta, and I could barely put on my clothes, never mind think, I have to follow up with a counsellor, or it was really great to have that proactive follow-up that took that out of my
Your
hands,
mind, really.
my mind. It was one less
Wasn't
thing
hanging
to
over
think
you,
about.
things like when the basic things are so hard to do.
Exactly. But thank you very much for your
I
time.
really
problem.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. And next we're going to take you on a little bit of a tour of the space.
An adolescent room. So as you can see, it's all fun and games in here. It's set up for our under 18 clients. So we've had clients as young as 5, up to people in their 80s. So actually over the last 12 months we have seen about a 30% increase in our underage clients. So this room is getting a lot of use. This table was actually given to us by Caroline Community School, who fundraised for this specifically.
Wow.
And then we have some lovely artwork here. It's actually based on Darkness into Light.
Mm-hmm.
So from the dark into light.
Yeah.
And that was done by a community group of youths, kids from 12 until 18, a couple of years ago, which is lovely. It's just a lovely image, isn't it?
It is. It's and it is off that theme of darkness into light. Which, by the way, when is that occurring this year? So we didn't discuss that in the.
No, Darkness into Light is actually what keeps our service going. Really, it is the lifeblood of Pieta House. It's www.dil.ie, so you can go and register there from about the 14th of March, but we will be giving you a lot more information on that nearer the time. But really that picture is what happens on that walk. You start walking at 4:15 in the morning. By the time you've done your 5k, you're coming around and the sun is rising. So really that's the journey of our clients, from the darkness into light. As you can see here as well, we have a gorgeous mural, and it's a quote from Christopher Reeves, and it says, "Once you choose hope, anything is possible."
Wow.
It was really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this again was done by a company, Delhi MC. There was a group of wonderful people who came in and did this mural, and it's just a lovely image, and I love the quote.
Absolutely fantastic. No, it's an amazing room. Can't wait to see the rest.
So, do you want to come in?
Yeah.
This is a typical counselling room. As you can see, there isn't that much in here. There's 2 seats, and the therapist will sit here, and the client will sit there. And this is where the real work happens, I suppose.
Very relaxed kind of environment, and even, this is kind of the way I'd like to decorate a room in my own house. It's
So they're all around this size, and they all have kind of the same furniture. But each therapist has their own room, and they have their own personalities. So there are different artifacts or pieces that they'd have in here.
Okay.
This room has just been changed from a therapist who used to work here. She finished up a couple of weeks ago, but up until then there was so many thank you cards displayed on that cabinet. It's so nice to see. It's really, really nice to get a card and to be, to know somebody's doing well after they have come out of the service. Like, it really is lovely. Yeah.
So I've just bumped into John on the stairs. John was actually my own counsellor when I was here in Pieta. I'm very surprised to actually just bump into you there now.
No problem, but
No
good to
problem.
see you.
He's the star now. This is the 12 out of 10
I'm
man.
going now.
Yeah.